Hey there, I'm Zach Larson, and this is Living Words Press. Today, we're going to talk about clean books. I have a list of 5 great stories here, and you don't have to worry about any of them. Granted, some of them have a little bit of violence, and they might have some light swears, but for the most part, these are clean. There's no explicit material, and not a lot of swearing. They're all really, really good. So, let's dig into it. The first one on my list, and really, this is my favorite book, is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This is a great book. Yes, it's a classic, and I know some people walk away from classics. They don't want to mess with the classics. And it is an older style of writing, but it's still so good. The main character in it, Dante's, he is betrayed at the very beginning, gets sent to prison on an island, meets his mentor there, who knows where a treasure is. He manages to escape after his mentor dies. He finds the treasure and uses that treasure to essentially become a Batman-type character, which I love Batman, so that's a good perk for it. But he becomes a Batman-type character because he has all this money. He uses it to get a lot of training. So he trains his body, his mind, and even gathers a bunch of associates and connections. So he is able to then use all of that training and ability and those connections to go and exact revenge on the people that betrayed him. There's intrigue, there's lots of betrayal throughout, and then there's the revenge part. He also uses disguises and different personas throughout the book. It's just so good. So this one is at the top of my list because it's been my favorite for a really, really long time. The Count of Monte Cristo. Check it out. The next one, which honestly, this is probably as much a favorite as The Count of Monte Cristo. And in my last video anyway, about Brandon Sanderson Let Me Down, I did say that even though I'm not supporting any more of his new books, there are still some of his old books that I really love. And Tress of the Emerald Sea is also, it's probably at the same level of The Count of Monte Cristo for me. It's not really a number 2, it's also a number 1. It is also so good. And it's one of the few recent Brandon Sanderson ones that I think is super clean, super on point, and it's probably my favorite book from him. It's just really, really excellent. And so you have, number 1, a classic Brandon Sanderson fantasy setting. You have this world where the seas are not water, they're spores. And the spores are essentially plant-like things that if they get wet at all, they do something that is pretty crazy. Like where Tress, the main character, grows up on the verdant sea, the spores explode into extreme plant growth. And so, let's say one got in your eye and got wet from your eye, it's pretty much exploding with a big plant vine into your head. But there are multiple colors of seas, and all of the spores do something different. And so, number 1, the setting is amazing because it uses an idea of liquefaction, where if air is pumped into sand, you can actually float on it, and it turns more into a liquid. And the same thing is happening here. He actually has a video on it with Mark Rober about how the liquefaction of sand works. And so the setting itself is just so cool. And yes, it is a part of his greater book universe, the Cosmere, but you'll only be slightly confused about one character. The narrator is a world or a planet hopper from the Cosmere. And so he travels to lots of different worlds, but he's telling the story, and he's really funny. But you don't need to have read anything else in the Cosmere, and ultimately, if you just read this, it's amazing. And so you have Tress, who I find her character so interesting because she is just an average plain girl on this little rock island that is basically a port in the sea and no one's allowed to leave. And she is just very persistent and very pragmatic. And later on in the book, that persistence and pragmatism becomes basically a superpower. The way the book is written, it just shows how her persistence and pragmatism just always wins the day, even through really difficult circumstances. And just it's really, really cool how that happens. And so she's become one of my favorite characters because it takes something that would seem boring in a lot of other settings, and she seems very plain and boring in the beginning, but then she just keeps going because she doesn't have any other better choices, so she just continues on. It's also, this book is a combination between pirates and this crazy fantasy setting and The Princess Bride. So if you've read or watched The Princess Bride and you liked it, you're going to get the same nostalgic feel from this, plus a dose of the new and the other because of the fantasy setting and the pirates. And heck, pirates, come on. It's really, really good. Tress ends up being the Wesley type character, so she becomes the heroine. And there's a talking animal, and there's a witch, and a dragon, so it's really, really good. So also a number one for me. Definitely check this out. There is maybe some very, very light swearing, but otherwise this is an extremely clean and wonderful book. Next on my list, To Kill a Mockingbird. Sorry, the cover's huge, and I didn't want to find another picture, so there it is. But this book, yeah, it's old, and yeah, it has some racial language in it, but I don't think that anyone should shy away from reading this because of that. It uses the N-word a lot, but it deals with difficult topics, but it is still a really clean book. And the way that it is written, it's showing the difficulties of racism and the difficulties between peoples and an innocent man being convicted of a crime, a terrible crime. You can see it there on the screen, but he's convicted of it because of the racism of the white jury. And this is just dealing with issues of the time itself. It is not an anti-white book by any means. It is these were the problems of this time in the past in a fake town in Alabama, and it's also showing the main character Scout, who starts as a little girl about 6, and then it progresses. The story takes place a few years within her life there, and she is naive, and so we get to see a lot of the difficult things from this story from the view of someone who has a lot of innocence still. And yes, she does see straight to the truth a lot of the time, but the more difficult topics are treated with a light hand, even though we as the reader can definitely see them, and they still impact us, but we can talk about them in an easier space because of this unreliable narrator, essentially. And so, yeah, it has some really difficult themes, but I do use it in my classroom, and it's a great book. The students always get a lot out of it. It always impacts them. And yeah, they have to deal with some difficult things, but we talk about it all. And at the end of it, they say, yeah, we're so glad we read that, and it should not be censored, and it should not be changed to match modern sensibilities. The way it is important, and we need to read it the way it is. And so this book I highly recommend, because it's a classic for a reason, and it has some really, really amazing themes that we can all learn from. And it's a commentary on morality and raising kids and gender norms and society's issues and racism in all the right ways, and not in really progressive ways at all. It's just a really good book. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. Now, what list would be complete without The Lord of the Rings? And I'll be honest, I still really like The Hobbit, but I do also like The Lord of the Rings. But I read The Hobbit first because I got a big set when I was younger, and probably before I was technically old enough to be reading these things, but I've always read things at a younger age, always been a really good reader. So I read The Hobbit and really liked it. And I liked the beginning of the Fellowship, but I got stuck in the middle when they were having all their meetings, and I didn't come back to it for years. And finally, I'd watched the movies, and I was like, actually, these are pretty interesting. So then I came back and pushed myself to read the books, and I really loved them. One of the few books I've only ever read once are The Fellowship and The Two Towers and The Return of the King. I've only read them once, but they were still good. They are worth a read. I've read The Hobbit a couple times, but they're all really good. and they're all really clean. And yeah, they have a lot of violence, but they have good themes. Like the main character, they're dealing, or the main characters throughout, they're dealing with oppression and tyranny, and they're dealing with the underdogs and how do we lift the underdogs up, and how do we bring back morality through the tyranny. And then there's, crazy mystical magic too. So Lord of the Rings, also good. You've probably read it, but it's got to be on the list. All right, this one is one that I just recently listened to, so I'm going to give a short caveat that I listened to the audiobook that was adapted for young readers. And I feel like that means there's probably a more adult level book with more swearing and stuff. But the one that is adapted for young readers is extremely clean. There was almost no swearing. There's a little bit of swearing. And yeah, it deals with some difficult topics because it is narration of actual events that happened in Oklahoma to a sage of Native American, a group of Native Americans called the Osage, and they had a bunch of oil rights, and they essentially got killed off and put into indentured servitude in the 1920s, so like more modern times, just so that people had control of their oil rights and their money. And it goes through the mystery, and it has interviews from real people, and it's really, really good. And so this one I highly enjoyed. I don't usually read adaptations like this, but I actually last year went and heard the author speak at ISU with my class and some of the other students from my school, the school that I teach at, and I guess that puts kind of where I'm at, but that's fine. But I heard him speak, and it was interesting, him talking about his books. And then this book came up on an Audible deal, and it was the adapted for young readers one, so I knew it was going to be pretty clean anyway. And so I did listen to it, and it was really well written, and in some of the descriptions, people said that it read like a thriller, and it does. It goes through it, and it's fast paced, and it has mystery and intrigue, and it's excellent. So definitely check out Killers of the Flower Moon. It's even more poignant because it is a true story, and it all actually happened, and there are still repercussions of it in this tribe today. All right, so that's my list. I'm going to add one more, which is mine. This one is a clean Christian fiction. And you can see some reviews here. So I wrote this to deal with showing a teenage girl dealing with difficult emotions and feelings, and how story helped her deal with that. And so, because I deal with teenagers a lot, and I have a psychology minor, and so I wanted to explore these issues, and there's also some historical aspects to it. There's 3 different storylines. There's the modern day one, and 2 different historical storylines that pertain to the modern day one and teach lessons, and it's really, really good. The people that have read it really like it, and so if you want to support me, definitely check out God Save the Children, and the cover is recently new when I'm recording this, and I really love the stained glass look, so check it out on Amazon, and for your ebook and paperback and hardback. And if you want the ebook and you don't like Amazon, it's also now available on all of the other main ebook retailers. And so if you have a different place you go for your ebooks, it's probably there. There's no audiobook yet, but we're working on it. But anyway, yeah, so if you want to support me, check out God Save the Children. So don't forget to subscribe to my Substack, which is my newsletter. You can see, if I go all the way back up here, that this post was from March 7th. So all of my posts that I do, they come out there first. So if you want to be first to know, definitely go over here and subscribe to my Living Words Press newsletter at substack.com. You can just, I'll link to it in the video description. And so definitely go check out and subscribe there to support me and get all the things that I post. I post about books and writing and clean books and faith, and specifically my faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I'm a teacher, so I'm going to post about educational things. I post poems and snippets of writing. So there's lots of things. If you're just looking for good, clean content that uplifts, inspires, and informs, then come subscribe so that you don't miss stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.